Welcome to Board Game Empire. We're going to be showing you an overview and review of Atlantis Rising by Elf Creek Games. So this is kind of a racing worker placement type game, and it's a cooperative game, which normally we don't really care for cooperative games, but this one is very, in my opinion, I know it's hard to believe, but it was kind of relaxing, even though you have the misfortunes round that occurs. That's a little stressful, but I found it to be really fun. And normally we don't enjoy cooperative games that much, but we did win, and we played on the beginner version. There's 5 levels of difficulty, and I can tell you, I looked at those difficulty levels. Wow. I don't see how you could win the level 3 through 5, but they are probably some that can accomplish that.
Especially if she's rolling.
Yeah, my rolls were horrible. On the actions, like you have to roll anywhere from a 3
above
to a 6. I kept rolling 1s and 2s. So 1s and 2s get you nothing. But I'll go over a little bit more of that in a second. So you can choose different, let me make sure I get the right terminology, counselors. So there's several player boards that you can choose from. On your beginning game, you always want to have the artificer, and I now understand why. And then the remaining players can choose whoever. The artificer is able to take their leader and put it on any unbuilt component to use that skill, which was very helpful. That's how we were able to win the game, because it allowed us to unflood tiles. We used the unflood tiles, place 1 mystic barrier, gain 2 mystic energy. We used that a lot. All these were skills we would have not normally been able to use, and definitely not been able to use multiple times in a normal game if we didn't have this leader. So she was very helpful in being able to do that. We played a 2-player game. There's a 2-player variant where you use the hologram character, which is also very helpful. And it's a cool little meeple. It plays as basically a 3rd player that whoever has the first player token that round controls the hologram. And you choose a player board. You basically take the stack, take the top 2, choose one, and that's the leader they're playing, or the counselor they're playing as that round. So their counselor changes every round, which kind of kept it also interesting, because they always had a different leader ability that you could choose between 2. And we did have to shuffle one, so they kind of recycle back around. But that was very helpful as well, because it allowed you to have that extra help with that leader ability that gave you some bonus, I guess I would call bonus actions that you could do that you normally wouldn't have the ability to do, because you stick with the same counselor player board throughout the whole game for your own team. So basically in a 2-player game, that is the difference. And in the misfortunes part of the phases where you suffer misfortunes, each player has to pull 2 misfortunes. So we were dealing with 4 misfortunes every round, which was, I am surprised we won.
Yeah.
But we looked through the deck, and we got very lucky, because we never came across any of the controlled floods, which are pretty bad. But there was some other catastrophic ones in there that we never came across. So we got very lucky on those. We got a lot of the calm seas that came out.
We were 3 rounds from losing.
Yeah, and I shuffled this deck really well, but it was weird. Like there was a lot of really bad ones. We came across some bad ones, but having that, my leader ability, the artificer, I think I'm saying that right.
And the mystic, it's really good.
We were able to reverse things. Like I was able to unflood some of the tiles, so that helped us to reverse it back a little bit. If we didn't have that, we would have definitely not won.
And mine corrected anyone's downfall from like rolling a dice. It pretty much guarantees that you will be able to get the resource.
Right.
So we would stick the mystic with Amanda, because she kept rolling 1 or 2s.
I kept rolling every time.
So the resources were still obtained.
Whereas Anthony was lucky. He kept rolling 5s and 6s almost every time. So it was really weird. But
I carried the game.
So basically, you have Atlanteans, your little meeples, in your color, and a leader Atlantean. And the leader doesn't have any different. The only thing that's different about them as far as gameplay is their leader ability. Other than that, they have the same weight as the regular Atlanteans on the actions. There's no special thing that there's like some games. I know if you put the leader as another smaller meeple can't be in the same space as them, things like that. There's none of that. It's just basically they have a leader ability. So what you're trying to do in this game is you're trying to build the 10 starting components that you chose to play with at the beginning of the game. You've got to build all 10 of those, 9 of those and the power core, which is the middle of the cosmic gate board. So you're trying to build all those components in the cosmic gate so you can go to a different world that's safer, correct? Mm-hmm. And so...
just like a Stargate.
So you get those most of them grant you a one-time bonus at the time you build them. And there's 3 of them that we played with that allowed you to place your Atlanteans on them each round to gain 2 mystic energy was one. There was one, it was like a random, whatever number you rolled, you got that reward. Like it was all the different resources. Or sometimes you got a volunteer. The little gray ones are volunteers, Atlanteans you get to use temporarily for 1 round. And the other one was there a third one? Maybe there was only 2. Oh, I'm thinking of the center when the power core wasn't there. The center had 3 spaces where you got 1 mystic energy. And then it also allowed you, if you placed your meeples or your Atlanteans there, and there's an unlimited amount of Atlanteans that could go on each of those spaces, you get to combine your resources to purchase one component for each of those spaces. There's 3 spaces, but in a less than 5 player game, you can only use 2 of those. There's the third space is for a 5-player game, or 5+. So we were able to build all 10 components before all the islands flooded. And like he said, I think we were within 3 rounds of losing. So basically, this is the gameplay. First, you place your Atlanteans. In a 2-player game, you start with 4 Atlanteans and a leader. And you do have the opportunity to gain more through actions. There's actions on the board that if you roll a certain amount, you can get an Atlantean. I think that one is when you have to have 2 meeples on it that both roll a dice, and it has to be a certain number higher based on what it is. I think it was 7 was the lowest number. It had to be 7, 8, 9. They went up as you went up the peninsula. One player got an extra Atlantean to add permanently to their Atlanteans. When the island floods and you're on it, and your Atlantean is on it, it doesn't go away. It just goes back to your player board. You don't lose them, luckily. That would also be bad. But we didn't really chance it much. We kind of stayed back on at least 1 tile back from the edge, whatever the edge was at that moment, because we didn't want to miss out on getting a resource. I think there was one time we missed out because of that tile flooded, and it's because...
That was the core one where you trade the core for the metal.
Because 2 cards came out at the same time that did 2 tiles at the same time. Why? Because we were getting lucky, and mostly it was like we would get a calm seas and 1 tile that flooded, or we would get something that didn't... So we just got really lucky in this game. You can play the Mystic Barriers. There are opportunities. One of the components give you a Mystic Barrier. Then you can also purchase Mystic Barriers during the Place Atlanteans phase and the Take Actions phase. It's 5 Mystic Energy to purchase one. Or actually 4 Mystic Energy to purchase one of those. So if you have enough Mystic Energy, and what that does is you place it beside the peninsula that you want to prevent flooding from that prevent flooding until it does flood. And what happens is if that peninsula is chosen by the card, you would remove the mystic barrier instead of flooding the island. However, if 2 came out, one of them would take away the mystic barrier and the other one would still flood one tile on the island. So first you place your Atlanteans on, you can do it on one of the 6 peninsulas based on which action you want to do. There's different actions where you can gain crystals, gold, the ore, or you can place it, forget, the mountain, is that called the mountain? I can't remember what that's called, but where you can trade in your ore for the bars.
Yeah.
There was places where you could gain your Atlanteans, and I'm trying to remember what all they were. Oh, and library cards. You get library cards. I stuck with that a lot because those are guaranteed.
And because she was rolling really bad.
I rolled so badly. I kind of backed off from the rolling for a while. I was going for the guaranteed ones. Then you can place, like I said, in the middle of your cosmic gate board to gain mystic energy. And if you have enough resources, you can put them together and purchase one of the components. Then after that, you suffer the misfortunes. In a 2-player game, the first player draws 2, resolves both of them. Then the next player resolves 2 and draws 2 and resolves those. After you've flooded what needs to be flooded, then you get to take your actions. If you have Atlanteans left, which you should, you roll the dice on the wild peninsulas. That's the ones where you can gain the resources needed to buy the components, or you can trade your ore that you'd already gotten from that wild peninsula to trade in for the bars, or you could do the library cards or try for the meet the Atlantean. And then after that, there's the endure the wrath of the gods. So you're still not done with the misfortunes. You will be moving this little tile up each round. At first it starts at 0, so you're good. So nothing happens. The next round, you have to pull 1 misfortune card and resolve it. So you're going to basically have 2 rounds of misfortunes. So we were basically, after the first round, pulling 5 misfortunes, then 5, and then 6, then 6, and then after that, it's always 3 during the Wrath of God. So we would have been pulling 7 misfortunes each round till all of them were flooded. So that's why we only had 3 rounds left, because next round, we would be at the point where we would be pulling 7 misfortune cards a round. And then you just pull all your Atlanteans back and you start over. Did I mention the hologram? In the 2-player game, you also play with a hologram, which is a really cool meeple. That's like a 3rd player that the player with the first player token controls. And you choose a player board. You stack all the unused player boards to the side. You pick the top 2. The player controlling it gets to choose one of the 2, discards the other one, and that gives that leader, that hologram, basically that's all they have is their hologram leader token. That gives, you can use their special ability, and anything they collect during their round, you get. So, and then on the next round, the next player will control him and choose a different player board. So its leader ability is always changing every round. That was very helpful. That and the Artificer was very helpful because we had a different player ability every round, and then eventually you will be shuffling through them again, because once you go through them all, you just shuffle through and just keep doing that every round. Let's see, what else did I go over?
Library cards.
The library cards. Those were very helpful. You can only have a total of 4 in your hand at any time. There's both ones that have a parchment paper back. Those are, or background. Those are basically one-time use. And then there's ones with like a bluish gray background. Those are artifacts that you place in your tableau area that are like a constant ability that you can use over and over. Those do count towards your 4 total. So I had 2, which were very helpful. So that means I could only have 2 others. We pretty much just used them pretty instantly because they were very helpful. And this game moves pretty fast after the first few rounds. So you're going to want to use as much help as you can to try to keep those islands from flooding before you can purchase all those components. So
one of the most helpful cards that we experienced was the one where you can actually trade your resources amongst each other.
Yeah, and you can trade resources during. There was another time when you could trade resources.
Yeah, but I just remember that.
But we had a card that allowed us to do it. And you're going to be when you're purchasing components, you're going to be putting your resources together if you're both on the same space anyway, so that's very helpful. You're able to talk, and so the whole time you're playing as one. You're not playing against each other at all. So that was kind of nice. Because we're normally really competitive, really take that. So that's why this game was really relaxing to play, because we were playing as a team and just accomplishing it together. So that was kind of cool to do that. And did I cover all the overview stuff?
Yeah.
So we're going to go into the review.
Okay, so what did you think about the components?
The components are really nice.
Yeah.
I have this thing, I love the little gems and crystals in games. I've just always loved those. Even the resources are really nice. They're, the little crystals are nice. They're like little jewels. And then your gold and ore and metal pieces. Those feel like metal, but I think they're painted wood or plastic, but they feel like metal. Everything, all the components are really nice in this game.
Yeah, so I think that this is one of the best components, because this is not a Kickstarter. This is actual base game. And for the base game, it's phenomenal. I think it really stands out. It definitely has table presence. The cards, everything's vibrant. The way it's illustrated, the center main board, it just looks you just want to jump right in and play. And so just a cool design and pretty much a theme of the game. So what did you think about the whole, the rules?
Well, we didn't actually have to read much of the book because we like to watch videos if we can. I mean, no need to recreate the wheel if you don't have to. I'm more of a visual learner, so Watch It Played does a really awesome video as usual. He always does. He's a great teacher. I do really well because he's like quick and to the point. It was only a 19-minute video. Yeah. So this is a very easy game to learn and teach, especially if you just have them watch his video. But it was a very easy game to learn. And it just flowed really well. And like I said, it's very relaxing, even though I know there's the misfortunes phases where that's a little stressful, but you're working as a team. So we've had our turns planned out, like several turns ahead, what components we were buying. And so we already kind of knew. So even if something was flooded that we were going for, I had the artificer that allowed me to unflood things. So we had a lot of control over what happened, even though that was a chaotic phase. There's a lot of tools in this game that help you to reverse that. So that's what I liked about it. It was a nice change, and I was kind of tired when we played it, so it was nice to have kind of a relaxing game that I didn't have to, it wasn't hardcore competition. Yeah.
So for me, the rules, she went off topic.
I know.
But the rules are very well established throughout the whole game. You have each character that pretty much tell you the route order by place and the characters. Then you suffer misfortune, take action, and endure wrath of gods. Then the back of the book, you have some more information that gives you, what is it? Frequently asked questions. Yeah. So if you come up with something that you just don't have really understanding after watching the video or reading the book, but yeah, there's and all the cards pretty much entail what what you're gonna do. So
and if you have a question, the book is really well written.
Yeah, and then also, just the board itself, the iconography, there's not that many iconography, so it's not going to be hard to, remember. I mean, you only have five,
Right.
3, 6 spaces. And so what's, what you're going to be playing, what you're going to be doing. So really simple rules. I think that this is, you can teach it probably at 10. Or even younger, because it's really easy to play, and plus it's a co-op, so you'll be able to guide your someone younger through the whole experience. So really good rules. So what did you think about the whole experience?
And just to go on the rules, they're a very good picture. Like I said, I'm a visual learner, so there are a lot of great pictures and examples throughout the book. I mean, we did have to reference the book a few times just because it was our first time playing, and we just had to refresh ourselves on things. And it's a small, concise, well-written rule book. What was your question?
So what do you think about the experience?
Like I said, it was relaxing for me. I found this game to be just a nice change of pace. And if you're into team games where you play as a team, especially if you have kids that fight a lot over games, this would be a great game to play with them, because there would be no fighting because you're working together. It's a great way to teach your children to work together as a team and not dominate. Like, there's no dominant. You have to work together, because although you're putting your resources together to purchase components, you still have to work as a team on your own to gather those components with your own Atlanteans and go for the same goal. So you have to work together in that way to know where to place them, so you're not stepping on top of each other and collecting too much of one thing and not enough of another. So yeah, it's a great game for teamwork, definitely.
So I really liked the experience, and I'm just going to dive more into it. What she said, like for this character, the character I used was the Mystic. So in cooperation, you're pretty much, I would be placing the character, and if the person didn't roll well, then they would get, the actual item. And then there's other card or characters where you're able to, some of the, I forget which one, I forget one of the characters where you could still use one of the flooded lands.
Yeah, Aquanaut.
Yeah, and so that benefits all the players. So there's so many different ways that you could cooperate and pretty much show how each character, which in like life, each person has their own strengths, and you learn to use it. Mm-hmm. So it's a really good life lesson for if you want to play with kids, how to pretty much play this game. So really, I'm very impressed with it. So what did you think about the mechanics?
The mechanics flowed very well, and it was because you are doing the same thing every round as in most games, but it all made sense. It all flowed in a great way, because you're placing your Atlanteans, then you're wreaking havoc with the misfortunes, then you're taking your actions after the misfortunes have happened, and then of course as life goes, there's another misfortune, because life's all the ups and downs. So mm-hmm. It's like it just flows really well, and you're working towards. It's fun because you're working towards purchasing those 10 components. So you're always thinking ahead, and so it all just flows really well together. And in a 2-player game, so we only played a 2-player. I can't speak for the higher player counts, but I really liked having that hologram leader. Yeah. That was nice, as that having that bonus player that you took turns controlling and choosing what their leader ability was based on the 2 cards that you were to choose from. So yeah, I think it all flowed, and they did very well at balancing, in my opinion, a 2-player game. So, because a lot of times in 2-player games, there's always there's something missing in some of them. This, I think, adding that hologram helped to balance that, where you're not, especially in co-op games, it's hard to win co-op games with just 2 players.
Yeah.
I think.
So I really like the mechanic. Like she said, it flows very smoothly. It's easy to understand, and it's it's just a really simplistic game, but yet still competitive enough where, especially with the different levels that you could do. We did the beginner, and so it was just, I could see how as you do more, the harder ones, it's just going to be almost impossible. And I think it has several expansions already. Because this was, I think, 2020 when it was created. But just a great mechanics. It's really simple to pick up. The video we saw was only 19 minutes. The rule book is precise. And you really, this is a game that I think if you, which I'll hit into the replayability. I'll mention that first. The replayability is just, it works very well because of all the icons and all the rules are established already within the boards and all the boards and all the cards and everything. And so high replayability because it's, it's easy to learn, relearn, teach. And the only thing that takes a while is probably the setup. And that takes probably 15, 20 minutes. But besides that, high replayability because of the different levels you could do. So what did you think about the replayability?
I think it's high because even though he said there's the setup, if you play this game more, it would be faster because this would be second nature because everything's marked. It's really obvious how they go. They go from lower to higher. The only part that you would need to truly take your time setting up is the misfortunes because based on the level you want, you got to take out a certain amount of the controlled floods and
shuffle
a certain amount of the calm seas. That's the only two cards that change. You would have to choose which components you want to try to build based on, there's 20 to choose from. We did the recommended ones, but definitely in another game, we would choose different ones just to, so it would spice it up. And did they already have expansions or they're working on them?
No, they already had expansions.
Yeah, so the expansions, I don't know what they add, but I assume they add more components and they couldn't really add more peninsulas, so I don't know what is that what it adds?
Well, I don't know. It would be easy to add.
Yeah, you can make them longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not extras. So I think this is very highly replayable, especially if you enjoyed it and you could just keep going, see how high of a level you could get before it's impossible to play. And and if you're tenacious, you would probably keep playing that same level until you did beat it. That's what would make it replayable and fun.
If you just want to go mad. So after a while, I think the punishment would be enough. So what did you think about overall total?
I would, for me, I never rate games like 9s or 10s, rarely. But I would give this 8.5, definitely. And that's a very high score for me. I think an 8.5 is a good score. Yeah,
I would rate it 8.5 simply because this is actually a cooperation game where I feel you actually can win. There's no leader where you feel like someone's just taking over the whole game. And there's actually a lot of things you can do. So it's just a fun, relaxing, simple game. We played it listening to music. So it's just a really easy game. You can watch TV and play it or listen to music. There's, different experiences, but I really enjoyed it. So anything else you want to say?
No, I think we pretty much covered it all.
So if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Social media is down below in the description. I will have a link where to buy the game, and we'll see you in the next video.